They told you comfort was the goal, that once you had enough money, time, and peace, you'd finally be happy. But what if that's the biggest lie modern life has sold you? What if comfort isn't saving you, but slowly destroying you? Nietzsche saw it coming over a century ago. He warned that the pursuit of comfort, without purpose, doesn't make men free. It makes them weak, tame, spiritually hollow. And now, we're watching it unfold in real time. A generation of men who have everything, but feel like nothing. This video isn't for everyone. It's not soft. It won't soothe you. But if something inside you feels restless, empty, or angry, and you don't know why, keep watching, because we're about to uncover how modern comfort is killing masculinity, and more importantly, how to fight back. You'll want to stay till the end. Nietzsche's final warning might be the wake-up call you didn't know you needed. You were never meant to feel comfortable all the time. That's not what life, or manhood, is about. Nietzsche didn't just question comfort, he saw it as a silent poison. When things are too easy for too long, a man doesn't just relax, he begins to rot from the inside. The body may be at ease, but the soul is starving. Comfort, Nietzsche warned, can turn a warrior into a pet, into something tamed, caged, and docile. Not because he lacks strength, but because he forgot he even had to use it. Take a look around. Air conditioning, soft chairs, fast food, instant entertainment, every modern invention whispers the same lie. You're fine the way you are. But Nietzsche would have laughed at that. Not because he hated ease, but because he knew it was a trap. A man who settles into comfort begins to shrink. His will dissolves, his instincts dull. He becomes less man, more machine, optimized for survival but incapable of greatness. And worst of all, he doesn't even notice the transformation happening. It starts subtly. You skip the gym for the third day in a row. You choose silence instead of a difficult conversation. You chase dopamine hits instead of purpose. And little by little, the fire dies. Not with a scream, but with a sigh. Nietzsche's first warning wasn't about politics or culture. It was about your spirit. He saw that when comfort becomes the goal, freedom becomes the casualty. And without freedom, you can't choose discipline. You can't choose sacrifice. You can't choose to become more. Here's the scary part. Comfort doesn't kill you quickly. It kills you slowly. It lulls you to sleep. It gives you just enough satisfaction to never question anything deeper. But there's more to this game than just surviving with a smile. The next question is, what happens when pleasure becomes more important than principle? At some point, pleasure stopped being a reward and became the goal. Think about that. We used to pursue meaning and purpose, and pleasure was just the dessert, something you earned after the battle. But now, the battle itself is seen as the enemy. Nietzsche saw this reversal coming. He warned that when softness takes the throne, virtue is exiled. Men begin to seek what feels good instead of what is good. And the consequences aren't just personal, they're civilizational. When a man chooses comfort over character, he gives up the very thing that makes him powerful, his ability to endure. Today's culture teaches you that struggle is a sign of failure. That if it's hard, something must be wrong. But Nietzsche believed the opposite. He saw struggle as the birthplace of strength, as the forge where greatness is hammered out. If you avoid discomfort, you also avoid transformation. Softness might protect you from pain, but it also protects you from power. Look at how we define success now. Easy money, passive income, work from the beach, be your softest self. But where's the backbone? Where's the fire? Nietzsche believed that when we pursue pleasure without purpose, we decay in ways we can't even see. It's not about becoming a monk or denying all pleasure. It's about anchoring your life in principle. If your compass always points toward what feels good, one day you'll find yourself completely lost. The real danger isn't that men are becoming soft, it's that they're proud of it. That softness is being sold as wisdom. That easy is being sold as enlightened. But what if that's all a lie? What if the reason so many men feel restless, anxious, and hollow is because they've traded their principles for pleasure? And if that's true, what happens when we remove struggle entirely from a man's life? Struggle is not the enemy, it's the sculptor. Nietzsche believed that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, but in today's world, men don't even get close to that threshold. Most avoid the slightest friction. They panic at rejection, fold under pressure, and view hardship as trauma. But here's the truth. The edge a man once carried, that sharpness of mind, will, and spirit, it's being dulled every time he's shielded from struggle. He's not failing because he's weak because he never had to fight. You weren't built for stillness. You were designed to adapt, to push, to resist. Struggle forces you to evolve. It demands you rise or perish. That's why Nietzsche held it in such high regard. He saw comfort not just as a luxury, but as an acid that corrodes the soul. When struggle dies, so does discipline. So does honor. So does the kind of grit that used to define greatness. Today, we medicate pain and outsource effort. But you can't outsource growth. You can't delegate the climb. Think about the men you respect most. Real men, not influencers. What do they all have in common? Scars, losses, battles. They earned their wisdom through war, internal or external. Their confidence wasn't downloaded. It was forged. But when struggle is removed from the equation, men start drifting. They become spectators in their own lives, waiting for something to click. And in that waiting, they lose themselves. Not in one big crash, but in a million quiet surrenders. Struggle doesn't just sharpen the edge, it reveals who you really are when no one's watching. It's the mirror you can't lie to. But we're not teaching that anymore. Instead, we're sedating struggle with screens, sugar, and slogans about self-love. And here's where it gets even more dangerous. What happens when a man forgets how to suffer for something meaningful? The comfort zone feels safe, until you realize it's a trap disguised as a sanctuary. Nietzsche might have called it a slow suicide of the spirit. On the outside, everything seems fine, routine, predictability, ease. But beneath the surface, something vital is suffocating. Your hunger, your fire, your edge. The comfort zone doesn't just protect you from danger, it numbs you to life itself. And once you're numb long enough, even freedom starts to feel like a threat. What makes the comfort zone so dangerous is that it never looks like a cage. There are no bars, no alarms, just soft routines, small pleasures, and the illusion of control. But what you don't realize is that every time you say no to risk, you're saying no to possibility. Every time you stay in your lane gets narrower. Your identity shrinks to fit the confines of your routines. And before you know it, you don't even recognize the man in the mirror. Nietzsche didn't preach chaos for its own sake. He believed that chaos was necessary to create. That order without challenge turns into decay. And the comfort zone is exactly that. Order without challenge. It convinces you to stop reaching. It whispers that you've done enough. That discomfort is dangerous. But the truth? Discomfort is your only proof you're still growing. If you're not uncomfortable, you're not moving. If you're not moving, you're not alive. You're just rehearsing your funeral. Let me ask you this. How many dreams have you buried in the name of comfort? How many risks have you postponed to someday? The comfort zone doesn't just steal your time, it steals your courage. And the worst part? You hand it over willingly. But if the zone is a coffin, then pain might just be the shovel. So here's the next question worth asking. What if pain isn't your enemy, but your invitation to wake up? Here's a brutal truth Nietzsche understood well. If you avoid pain, you avoid becoming. Pain is not just part of the journey, it is the journey. Transformation isn't born from comfort, it's carved out of discomfort, forged in tension. Every time you flinch from the sting, you forfeit the lesson. Every time you numb the ache, you reject the growth trying to emerge. Men today have been trained to escape pain, to label it as trauma, or to medicate it away. But pain has always been life's most honest teacher. Think about it. Pain is immediate. It's personal. It demands your attention in a way comfort never could. You can coast through a day of ease and forget it by sunset. But the day you got broken up with, fired, betrayed, or humiliated, you remember every detail. Why? Because pain leaves fingerprints on your soul. Nietzsche believed you should lean into that, not as a masochist, but as someone who understands that transformation requires pressure. Diamonds don't form in spas. You don't develop patience without waiting. You don't build resilience without failure. You don't learn discipline without saying no. Pain isn't punishment, it's the price of depth. And when you run from it, you don't just run from discomfort, you run from wisdom. That's why so many modern men are stuck in emotional adolescence. They've never been tested, they've never been cracked open, they've never learned how to bleed with purpose. Because every time pain knocked, they hid. Nietzsche didn't promise a painless life, he promised that if you faced your suffering honestly, you'd rise stronger on the other side. That your wounds could be the place where your power grows, if you stop covering them up. So now the question is, what if the pain you're running from is the very thing that could shape the man you're meant to become? Real masculinity isn't about aesthetics. It's not a beard, a deep voice, or the way you walk into a room. It's forged in resistance, earned, not performed. Nietzsche would have scoffed at today's shallow interpretations of manhood. To him, a man wasn't measured by his image, but by his ability to wrestle with life's chaos and not collapse. Masculinity without resistance? That's just a costume. A mask you wear until the pressure rises, and then it melts right off. There's a reason men who've never suffered often seem lost. They don't know who they are when things go wrong. They've built a version of themselves designed for display, not durability. Nietzsche knew that the only man worth trusting is the one who's been through fire and didn't break, or better, broke and came back sharper. But when a man avoids resistance, he stays shallow. He develops bravado instead of backbone. He gets louder instead of wiser. True masculinity has always been tied to challenge, the weight a man carries, the responsibility he doesn't flinch from, the decisions he makes even when no one's watching. But resistance has been labeled toxic, and we've been told that any form of struggle is a problem. That's how we ended up with a generation of men who are charming in public but hollow in private, who can talk endlessly about values, but never had to live them under pressure. You don't discover your limits in peace. You discover them in resistance. That's where honor is born. That's where clarity comes. Nietzsche believed the only man worth becoming is the one who chooses to stay in the fight, not because it's easy, but because it's meaningful. But here's the tension that keeps building. What happens to a man when he looks complete, but feels nothing? We're living in a paradox. Men today have more than ever: technology, safety, convenience, opportunities. But behind all that abundance hides a quiet epidemic: emotional emptiness. Nietzsche saw this hollowness coming. He warned that once man replaces meaning with pleasure, and struggle with safety, something essential begins to die. And it's not obvious at first. On the outside, everything seems under control. But inside, there's this nagging sense that something is missing, and we don't even know what it is. It's the feeling of checking every box: job, apartment, gym routine, and still lying in bed at night with that strange heaviness in your chest. It's not sadness, not fear, not even anxiety. It's numbness, a slow disconnection from life. Nietzsche would have said this happens when we stop pursuing depth, when we trade real becoming for artificial satisfaction. You scroll, swipe, eat, repeat. And yet, there's no fire, no ache, no hunger, just a faint echo of what being alive used to feel like. The truth is, meaning requires friction. Passion requires cost. You can't microwave fulfillment. It's earned through tension, not comfort. And that's the part men have been shielded from. We've created a world so padded that pain rarely touches us, and as a result, neither does joy. You can't selectively numb emotions. When you avoid the low, you forfeit the high. That's why so many men are silently craving something real, something that stings, something that stretches, something that wakes them up. So what happens when a man looks around and realizes he's built a life with no soul? A life that's full of stuff but void of story? He either numbs harder, or he starts searching. Nietzsche believed the search was sacred, but the modern world doesn't teach you how to search, it teaches you how to scroll. Which leads us to a bigger problem. What happens to courage in a society that teaches men to avoid risk at all costs? Once upon a time, danger shaped men, and courage was the answer. But today, safety has become a religion. Everything we do is built around minimizing risk. Don't say that, don't try that, don't feel that. Just stay comfortable, stay light, stay small. Nietzsche would have seen this obsession with safety as a slow death of the heroic spirit. He believed courage wasn't optional. It was the foundation of becoming someone worth following. But when safety becomes the god, courage is crucified. Look around. We raise boys to be harmless instead of strong. We teach men to avoid confrontation instead of leaning into discomfort. We reward compliance over conviction. And while that might reduce friction in the short term, it breeds something far worse: a quiet resentment, a suppressed rage, because deep down, men know they were built for more than just staying safe. Courage is the engine of purpose. Without it, you're not living, you're managing. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the decision to move forward despite it. And the modern world has confused anxiety with danger. Not every uncomfortable feeling is a threat. Some of them are invitations. Nietzsche called these moments birth pangs of transformation. That trembling in your chest when you speak the truth, when you walk away, when you try again, that's life trying to break through. But if you always choose safety, you never meet the version of you that exists on the other side of fear. And here's the twist. Every time you avoid risk, your tolerance for risk shrinks. You become more fragile, more hesitant, more trapped. Nietzsche didn't want you to chase danger recklessly, but he did want you to stop treating fear like a stop sign. Because without courage, a man becomes a spectator of his own potential. So let me ask you, what would happen if you stopped worshiping safety and started training for resilience? You want power? Then stop chasing motivation and start practicing discipline. Nietzsche didn't believe greatness was something you stumbled into on a lucky day. He believed it was crafted, deliberately, repeatedly, through choices made in silence. Discipline is the invisible architecture of greatness. It's not flashy. It doesn't go viral. But it builds men from the inside out. And in a world obsessed with hacks and shortcuts, discipline feels almost ancient. Modern comfort sells the opposite story. You deserve to rest. You don't owe anyone anything. But Nietzsche would call that noise. Not because rest is wrong, but because earned rest is different from constant rest. Discipline isn't just about grinding harder. It's about proving to yourself, every day, that you are not a slave to impulse, that your future matters more than your cravings. And if you can't say no to the small things, how will you ever face the big ones? The power of discipline lies in momentum. One disciplined action doesn't change your life, but 10, 20, 50 in a row, that rewires you. Suddenly, your standards rise. Your habits tighten. Your self-respect grows. And so does your silence, because disciplined men don't need to shout. They carry their certainty with them. But without discipline, even the most gifted man becomes a ghost of what he could have been. Discipline is how you earn your own respect. And when you've got that, the world follows. Nietzsche saw the disciplined man as someone who doesn't just react to life, he shapes it. But there's something else creeping into that space, threatening to steal that fire. A culture designed to addict you to ease. So the next question is, how do you break that cycle before it breaks you? You're not lazy. You're conditioned. Modern society doesn't just offer comfort, it trains you to crave it like a drug. Nietzsche would have called it spiritual anesthesia. Notifications, instant gratification, fast everything. It's not random. It's a system built to reward passivity and punish introspection. Why think deeply when you can scroll? Why build something when you can buy the illusion? But every time you reach for comfort, you reinforce the cage. And worst of all, you start liking it there. Addiction to comfort looks harmless. That's the danger. It disguises itself as self-care, balance, or living in the moment. But when comfort becomes compulsive, it steals your will to strive. Nietzsche warned that the man who avoids discomfort becomes predictable, controllable. And when you're easy to please, you're easy to manipulate. A man who can't sit with boredom or discomfort is a man who will surrender his power to anyone who offers ease. Breaking the cycle doesn't require some dramatic rebellion. It starts with micro-resistance. Wake up earlier than you want. Finish the workout you hate. Sit with your discomfort instead of escaping it. These aren't punishments, they're training. Reps for your willpower. Proof that you're not some domesticated pet of the algorithm. Nietzsche believed that resisting ease was a sacred act, one that reconnects you to your primal force, your deeper instinct to become more. But here's the catch, the system won't cheer for your growth. It'll tempt you harder. It'll offer louder distractions, softer landings, cheaper highs. That's why this isn't a one-time choice. It's a war of awareness. The moment you stop fighting, the cycle tightens again. So if you want out, if you want freedom, the next move is this. Stop asking what's easy. Start asking, what builds me? Strength isn't built when things go your way. It's revealed when they don't. Nietzsche believed that true power doesn't emerge from peace, but from tension. The man who embraces that truth stops looking for an easy life and starts looking for a meaningful one. And here's the twist. Meaning often shows up wrapped in discomfort. If you only move when it's easy, only speak when it's safe, and only act when you're certain, you'll never find your edge. And without your edge, you'll never feel fully alive. Every comfort you cling to has a cost. That snooze button? It taxes your momentum. That skipped workout? It chips away at your integrity. That conversation you avoid? It deepens the emotional gap you pretend isn't there. Strength begins the moment you stop negotiating with excuses. And that doesn't mean living like a machine. It means living like a man who refuses to be tamed by ease. Nietzsche wasn't advocating pain for pain's sake. He was showing us the path to authenticity, through discomfort. You've seen it in others, maybe even in yourself. That spark that returns the moment you commit to something hard. That confidence that grows every time you finish what you start. That silent pride in knowing you didn't fold when it would have been easier to. That's real strength. Not loud, not showy, but unmistakable. And it lives just past your threshold. You'll never meet it in your comfort zone. You meet it the moment you stay in the storm just one more second than you thought you could. So here's the question Nietzsche would challenge you with. What part of you is still soft because it's never been tested? That's where your next level hides. Not in what you already know or already do, but in the part of you that still resists the climb. And if you're brave enough to go there, then you're ready for the final truth. Nietzsche didn't sugarcoat it. Life will break you, unless you break yourself first, intentionally, on your own terms. That's the essence of his message. Don't wait for the world to crush you. Crush the illusions first. Destroy your weakness before life exposes it. Strip away what's soft before time does it for you. Because if you don't build yourself, the world will shape you anyway, and it won't be gentle. You'll either become the architect, or the ruins. He called it becoming who you are, but not in the modern, feel-good sense. Nietzsche meant becoming through suffering, through crafting your values, choosing your burdens, confronting your chaos. It's not about finding yourself, it's about forging yourself. Comfort delays that process. It tricks you into thinking there's more time. That clarity will come later. But time doesn't pause while you hesitate. And the longer you wait to build, the more life will dismantle you. Most men wait for a breakdown before they wake up. A divorce, a job loss, a health scare, something that rips the illusion apart. But Nietzsche's challenge is to volunteer for the fire. To lean into difficulty before it hunts you down. That's how you gain control. Not by avoiding the fall, but by choosing how, and why, you fall. And when you rise from that kind of fall, you're different. Not just stronger, sharper, truer, real. So here's where it all comes together. Modern comfort is seductive, but it's not neutral. It's shaping you, softening you, subtracting from your potential one painless moment at a time. Nietzsche's final warning is not a threat, it's an invitation. To rise, to rebuild, to stop waiting for strength to arrive and start becoming the kind of man the world doesn't make anymore. But that all starts with a choice, one only you can make. You now stand at a crossroads. Continue numbing yourself with comfort, or choose the fire and forge something unbreakable. Nietzsche didn't promise ease, he offered something greater, the path to becoming who you were meant to be, not through indulgence, but through resistance. And now, you know what's at stake. Ask yourself, where in your life are you playing small, staying safe, hiding from pain? What would happen if, instead of running, you leaned in? That discomfort you've been avoiding, it might be the door to your next level, or it might be the weight that breaks you, if you stay asleep. If this message hits something inside you, don't let it fade. Share it, save it, rewatch it when you're tempted to retreat, and most of all, subscribe and turn on the bell, because we're just getting started. The world needs stronger minds, sharper souls, and we'll keep making videos to build exactly that. But first, I leave you with one final question. If you don't build yourself, who will?